If you've ever been to Dallas, you know it's pretty easy to miss the city's most famous or infamous landmark. The only monument is to G.B. Dealey, a local newspaper man who, just before the turn of the last century, helped found the Dallas Morning News and tirelessly promoted growth in the city. On the north side of what's known as Dealey Plaza, at the corner of Elm and Houston Street, sits an equally nondescript brick building once used to store school books. To this day, visitors to Dallas who remember the assassination or are curious about it make their way to the plaza to see where it all happened. Perhaps a few more than usual will show up there tomorrow on the 40th anniversary. CNN's Kelly Wallace is there now, the site of the assassination of John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Kelly, good evening.
Good evening, Aaron. There really is a tragic irony about this place. Dealey wanted this to be the center of Dallas, a source of civic pride, but after that date, 40 years ago tomorrow, it became the source of the city's greatest pain. It's relatively quiet here this evening, more television crews, in fact, than visitors, but hundreds of people were touring this area throughout the day, some leaving flowers to remember the late president, one person leaving a note saying, "Mr. President, we still miss you," 40 years later. There will not be any official ceremony tomorrow to mark the tragic anniversary. That is in keeping with the Kennedy family desire to remember the president's life, not the way he tragically died. There will be some events, though, one in the museum that is now located inside that former Texas School Book Depository building, the place where Lee Harvey Oswald is believed to have fired the fatal shots. There will be an exhibit of very intimate photographs of the president and Mrs. Kennedy taken by then White House photographer Jacques Lowe. But also in keeping with how so many people have questions about what exactly happened here, conspiracy theorists will have a silent march tomorrow at about 12:30 p.m. local time. That is the time President Kennedy was struck. Many people coming here and focused on that X in the middle of Elm Street, and that is the place where the fatal bullet is believed to have hit President Kennedy as he was riding in that motorcade with his wife and with the Texas Governor John Connally and his wife. So many people come here. It stirs up a lot of emotions, anger, sadness, disbelief. But again, so many people coming, still searching for clues, because, Aaron, as you know, a majority of Americans, 75% in fact, according to a Gallup poll earlier this month, do not believe that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone and caused such a national tragedy 40 years ago tomorrow. Aaron?
Just a couple of questions. First of all, I'd never seen the X. I didn't know that they had done that. But that aside, the people who have come today, you've been there most of the day, are they young people? People who, honestly, were they alive when the president was shot?
You find a mixture of both. And what you find is people who were alive on that day. Again, this is no official survey, but I found talking to people who were alive on that day seem to believe the government's explanation that Oswald acted alone, whereas younger people who were not born on that day, seem to question and seem to believe that perhaps this was a greater conspiracy, Aaron.
That is fascinating, actually. I mean, it's one of those things you'd like to poll on. Thank you, Kelly. Kelly Wallace in Dallas will be there tomorrow as well. The assassination of John F. Kennedy changed so much in America, and it's not far reach to say that it affected our business, the television news business, as much as anything. Television news had begun to establish a foothold in the country during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and 2 years later, the president was shot, and millions of us tuned in and stayed tuned in for days. ABC News hardly existed at the time, but NBC had a great group of correspondents, Frank McGee and Tom Pettit, Sandra Van Oker, and of course Huntley and Brinkley. But for whatever reason, and there are lots of them, the man people most remember was Walter Cronkite. Sometime in those 4 days, he became the most trusted man in America.